Well, what a day on Wall Street, eh? The markets are unraveling based upon one man's unhinged obsession with tariffs. But right now, we have an incredible breaking story from Business Insider. It's coming up about surprising legislative pushback that's coming from 7 prominent Republican senators who've broken rank from MAGA and joined Democratic colleagues to try to stop anything like this Monday madness.
What are we seeing with the markets right now? There was this crazy blip earlier this morning when it sounded like there was a rumor that these tariffs might be delayed. Did that go away? Just please tell us where we are.
It was so insane. I mean, that is an official technical market term. Look, I was on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange when this happened. Suddenly you had like a huge rally in the stock market on talk. Everyone screaming that the president was going to pause these tariffs for 90 days, except for China. And we know from Bill Ackman, the billionaire who was a Trump supporter, he had told the president, he had said in a post, hey, the president should pause these things. Anyway, the whole thing turned into a rumor that ran through the internet and ran through the markets, and then suddenly was debunked and the market came down again. I think what it shows you is just how jumpy everyone is. It shows you just how concerned people are about every single whiff of news, even rumors about what's happening in the trade war. And it just shows you how important this trade war is to the future of the U.S. economy and the global economy. What you heard from Bill Ackman, he called for a nuclear winter in the economies around the world if these tariffs aren't taken off. So just a very, very jumpy, edgy, and just dread is the word I would use in the investment community right now.
I mean, it's so dire, Gabe. The president was asked specifically about whether or not he's trying to intentionally tank stocks. You know, he was golfing this weekend when this 10% tariff hit. Can you talk about the optics here?
Well, Christina, the White House really doesn't seem to care, at least not publicly. They are doubling down on all this. And just a short time ago, as you said, President Trump posting on social media that he is threatening a 50% tariff against China if they don't withdraw their retaliatory tariff. Now, look, yes, the president over the past few days spent a bunch of his time in his golf course in Florida. But I spoke with a White House official just this morning who stressed that he was still doing work, and they don't seem too bothered by some of the response they've been getting from even some Republicans who are worried about the effect that these tariffs will have on many Americans, on their retirement accounts. But the White House just sees this as something that needs to happen, as you just mentioned, that the president's saying that this is medicine. They've been running with that metaphor for the last several days, even as the Dow continues to drop there. And they really see this as a kind of rejiggering of the global economy and something that he is not backing off of, Christina.
Well, there may be only one possible way to back him off, and that's our featured story today. Earlier, Business Insider reported lawmakers introduced a bill to limit Trump's ability to maintain tariffs without their approval. Several GOP senators have already signed on to it as co-sponsors. It's the clearest sign that Trump's tariff plan is causing a major rift within his party. President Donald Trump's Liberation Day announcement is spurring members of his own party to attempt to rein in his tariff powers. Several Republican senators have signed onto the Trade Review Act, a bipartisan bill sponsored by Democratic Senator Maria Cantwell of Washington and Republican Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa. The bill would make tariffs imposed by Trump or any future president disappear after 60 days if not approved by Congress. It comes after 4 GOP senators backed an effort to block Trump from imposing tariffs on Canada. Despite the bill's bipartisan support, it doesn't have a clear path to becoming law, but it's the clearest sign yet that Trump's trade policies are dividing members of his own party. It's not just moderate Republicans who are backing the bill. Senator Mitch McConnell, the former Senate Majority Leader, has also signed on. Several other Trump allies have been critical of tariffs, including Senators Rand Paul of Kentucky and Ted Cruz of Texas. Here are the 7 GOP senators who've co-sponsored the bill so far: Susan Collins of Maine, Chuck Grassley of Iowa, Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, Jerry Moran of Kansas, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, and Todd Young of Indiana. The U.S. Constitution gives the legislative branch not the executive branch, the authority to impose tariffs. But over the course of the 20th century, Congress passed several bills that delegated more of that authority toward the president, leading to the present situation where Trump is able to legally impose all kinds of tariffs without congressional input. It's similar to the conversation that DOGE has spurred with Trump and Elon Musk shuttering agencies and cutting off funding without congressional approval. This bill is an effort to reverse that trend, at least when it comes to trade. For too long, Congress has delegated its clear authority to regulate interstate and foreign commerce to the executive branch. Grassley, the leading GOP co-sponsor, said in a statement, under the bill, any new tariffs would expire in 60 days if the House and the Senate don't pass a joint resolution of approval. Congress could also end tariffs sooner than the 60-day point by passing a joint resolution of disapproval. Republican Don Bacon of Nebraska is expected to introduce a House version of the bill as well. However, the legislation faces an uncertain path to becoming law. Both Senate Majority Leader John Thune and House Speaker Mike Johnson have stood by Trump, and they largely have control over what bills make it to the floor in their respective chambers. Trump has argued that tariffs down the line will help the economy. Furthermore, Trump would likely veto any bill that imposes limits on his power, requiring Congress to amass not just majorities, but two-thirds supermajorities in each chamber to override that veto. Well, resistance isn't always measured in results, or certainly at least not in the beginning. Really, isn't it about resisting? Resisting every bad edict, order, policy, resisting the temptation to give up and shut in, even resisting the urge to punch your once close relative who thought this was all some kind of a big game. But as with today's story, resistance is the point. And we certainly saw over the weekend plenty of signs to indicate that resistance is contagious.